Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I get to simplify the marketing and the mindset necessary so that you can have more income, more impact, and more enjoyment in practice. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking all about pricing and value. Now, I recently came across a book by the name of $1 Million Offers, written by a guy called Alex Hormozi. Now, Alex has made a lot of money by building gyms, helping service companies get in contact with more people. The book is stunning. I'm going to summarize a really key, important part of it in today's episode. Now, let me start with this. When most of us think about price and value, we think they're the same thing. They're not. I'm going to explain in this episode why they're different and why it's essential that you understand that. Question to begin with. When was the last time that you raised your fees in your practice? Now, it always amazes me when I ask this question to chiropractors, to health practitioners. Many of you haven't raised your fees for the last 12 months. Now, understandably, maybe at the moment, the excuse that comes back to me is, hey, Angus, it's kind of pandemic times at the moment. I didn't want to raise my fees. Well, this is kind of how things are going to be for a little while yet. If you haven't realized, this might be the new. Now, while you're not raising your fees, everybody around you is, okay? Electricity is going up, the price of milk is going up, all of these things continue to raise. Now, I don't know if you've tried to buy a house or a car recently, but the price of both these things is going absolutely through the roof. If you're not raising your fees regularly every 12 months, then you're being left behind. That's one of the first things that you can do to increase your income is just up your fees. Now, let's talk about the difference between price and value, and then let's look at why people buy or why your patients come and see you and why they might continue or might not continue to come and see you as well. Now, price is very objective. It's the concrete dollar amount that's assigned to an item. Okay, now the price of your adjustment might be $60, might be $75, whatever it is. Now, we know exactly what the price is, but the value is something very different, okay? The value is incredibly subjective. Now, the definition that I grabbed here, I think probably from Wikipedia, but it's much the same thing. Price is objective. No, let me go back to that. Value is a measure of the benefit provided by a good or service to the economic agent, in our case, our patient. So let me say that again. Value is the measure of benefit provided by a good or service to the economic agent. Now, people buy and they continue to buy when the value of something is at least equal to, but generally what we want is the value to something to be actually more than the price that we pay it. Now, if the value of something is less than the price, now remember, value is something that's very intangible as well. If the value is actually less than the price, then there's no way that we're going to fork over our money. Now, this is possibly why in the early days when somebody comes to see you and they have a pain and symptom, the value of getting rid of that is quite high for them. But once that pain or symptom disappears, the value of ongoing care seems to diminish. And this is often why they then tell you that your prices are too high or they don't continue on with your care. Now, if you're wanting to increase your retention and your repeat business, it's one of the things that we should absolutely be focusing on. Not only because, well, for multiple reasons. One, it's damn good for the people, okay? Ongoing chiropractic care is where the value is in terms of health, but it's also a really good thing for your business, the profitability of your business. It's much more economically efficient for us to have retention than it is for us to be searching constantly for new patients all the time, okay? Now, if you're wanting to increase your retention, therefore increase the value, we've really got kind of two options that you can be doing. One of the things that you could be doing is lowering your prices, and you could continue to lower it and lower it and lower it, and you could give it away for nothing. Now, interesting thing is this, is there have been times early on in my career when I've had patients come and see me, and for whatever reason, I've decided not to charge them at all. And yet they still stopped coming to see me, even though I was charging them nothing, okay? So that tells you how lowly they perceived the value of my care, is that they weren't even prepared to come in for free. Wild, hey? And yet I have plenty of other patients that were happy to pay each and every time they come in because they valued it, okay? So two options. One, either lower the price. This is what most people do in some ways. They try and keep their prices low enough. In fact, let me take a side step before I get into the second thing that we want to do if we want to increase our retention. Most of us, when it comes to setting the price in our practice, what we do is we have a look around us and we see what the average chiropractor is charging. And what we tend to do is we want to charge either what they're charging or a little bit less. Now, interesting, Dan Kennedy has a saying where he says there's absolutely no reason why you would want to position yourself as the second cheapest. It's no benefit of that at all. Being the cheapest actually has some business value. There are plenty of businesses that have done very well with that. Amazon and Walmart, big businesses like that have the financial backing and the systems to provide cheapest, can do very well. In fact, arguably, it's made one of the most wealthy guys in the world in Jeff Bezos with that business model. It's a very difficult business model for us to have as chiropractors, okay, because we don't have the bankroll behind us and we don't have the serviceability, okay? So if we're not going to decrease our price, the other thing that we could do is we could increase our value. Now, here's the thing. I think the goal of your care that you're delivering should be this: to give tremendous value at a discount. Now, the discount is another subjective word. Now, discount, by that I don't mean what the actual price is, because here's the interesting thing. It's not the actual money amount that somebody spends that actually defines a discount. I'll give you an example. And what if I could told you, for instance, that I could get you a Picasso painting that was valued, the last person that bought it, for $4 million. What if I told you that I could get it for you for 150 grand? Now, 150 grand is still a lot of money, but most of us would move hell and high water to get a hold of that Picasso because it's incredibly valuable. Now, maybe it's valuable because you wanted to on-sell it, or maybe you thought, here's my chance to have a hold of something that, I could never have beforehand for just 150 grand, okay? So again, the goal is for us to give tremendous value at a discount. And discount still can mean that your price for your adjustment could be 150 bucks. It could be 200 if you can position your adjustment like the Picasso painting. Now, value, here's an interesting thing there too, okay? I've done this experiment and I did it really recently with some of the community influence, my coaching clients, where I said, what if you had to increase your fees by 50%? So if you're currently charging 60 bucks for your adjustment now, you had to charge $90. And your goal was not to lose any patients, so you had to provide more value. What would you do? Now, it's interesting because when I ask this question, invariably what comes back to me is people want to start to do more. Maybe they want to make their adjustment longer. They want to add in other services, maybe supplements, other additional things that they want to do. Now and they're all great answers, and they're all things that will absolutely increase the perceived value. But here's the wild thing. There are companies out there that are selling exactly the same product as other companies, yet they're charging twice the price of it because they've been able to increase perceived value, okay? So what if you had to increase your fees from $60 to $90, but you weren't able to change your adjustment at all? Okay, your adjustment wasn't allowed to get any longer. You weren't allowed to do any more of them. And in fact, your adjustment wasn't even allowed to get any better. Okay, now that's assuming that you're competent. Now, how would you go about doing that then? Now, let me give you an example of a business that does exactly this. And I've talked about this previously on the podcast. And this can really sink inside your mind. Start to think about the chatter that comes up, because this will identify some of your beliefs in around the value that you have as a chiropractor, some of the value that you have in around money as well. So let's talk about Tiffany's, the jewelry. Okay, I want to go in there and I want to buy a 3-carat diamond engagement ring. And I'm going to be talked about with what the cut of it is and what the grading is. Now, that diamond ring at Tiffany's is probably going to set me back 40 or 50 grand. Now, I could go to a little jeweler around the corner and I could give him or her the exact same diamond requirements. I want a platinum band. I want a 3-carat diamond ring, princess cut, whatever it is there too. And probably around the corner, that same diamond might cost 50% less. Instead of it being 60 grand, it might be 45 grand, 30 grand there. It's the same product. Exactly. Okay. Now, another example for this might be, I'm fascinated with Apple. We talk about Apple a lot. Now, if I start to tell some of you that Apple has an inferior product, many of you are so loyal to Apple that you'll argue about, and I'm an Apple fan, but particularly when we look at the tech specs of my iMac that I'm recording a lot of this on now, in terms of the process power, the speed of it, the actual storage, you're paying at least 50% more for an Apple product than you are a regular PC. So let's go back to it again and say, if you wanted to increase the value of your adjustment and yet you didn't want to actually do anything different, is it possible that you could do this? Now, I think that it is. So let me talk to you. Inside the book I mentioned beforehand, $1 Million Offers, Alex gives a definition of value. Now, I'll see if for those of you that are just listening here, I'll see if I can do a good job of kind of explaining it as well. If you're actually watching this, I'll put up a little image of what it is. Now, he puts it together a bit like a math equation. That'll scare some of you. On the top part of this math equation, he says a value is equal to the dream outcome multiplied by the perceived likelihood of achievement, okay? And on the bottom half of that, it's divided by time delay and effort and sacrifice. In essence, what Alex is saying, if you're wanting to increase the value, what you need to do is increase the dream outcome, increase the perceived likelihood, you need to decrease the time delay, and you need to decrease the effort and sacrifice. So let's get a little bit kind of concrete about this. And let me show you how you can therefore increase the perceived value of your care, which will allow you to actually charge more, or at the very least what it'll do is it'll increase your attention, increase the number of people coming back to see you more and more. Now, this episode might take a couple of listens. I know we're dealing with some pretty heavy concepts in some way, but when you wrap your head around this, it's mind-blowing. So we want to do, Alex says, increase or maximize the dream outcome. Now, Alex goes on to say this: some problems are more meaningful than others. Now, when he says this, what I start to think about is when people come in to see us, there is a logical reason why they're coming to see us. Is it the back pain they've got? Is it the fertility issues? But behind this, there is also an emotional reason. Now, we justify it with the logical, but we make emotional reasons. There are emotional reasons in behind why we're actually buying anything. But oftentimes we're not aware of it, okay? So let me give you an example. Bill's back pain is preventing him from running. Okay, now running for Bill is all about stress relief. It makes him feel youthful and energetic. Now he comes into you and he tells you that he's got a cranky back. Now, if the problem you're solving, if the dream outcome that you're giving Bill is just about getting rid of his back pain, and giving him relief from that, then there's a certain amount of value inside of that. However, if the dream outcome that you're providing for Bill is not only to get rid of his back pain, but it's to get him back running, and maybe even running more often, more quickly, and with better results and more ease, then that is maximizing the dream outcome for Bill. That's a much more valuable transaction for Bill. Let's look at Jane. Now, she's coming to see you because she's having difficulties conceiving. So you might think that all that Jane wants is to get pregnant. Now, yes, that's the logical reason why she's coming in to see you. But we can maximize this outcome by not only talking and helping Jane get pregnant, but helping her step into her identity as her being a mother. Now, communicating in around these emotional things, the emotional side of the value of what we do, is exactly what Apple does. Next time that you're watching an ad on television about Apple, very rarely are they communicating how fast the processor is, the actual specifics, the specs of the cameras on there. What they're doing is they're communicating the emotional impact of their phone. I'll buy this phone and I'll be a movie maker. I'll get this computer and all of a sudden I'll be a creative genius. This is the type of emotional. They're maximizing the dream outcome. You're not just buying a phone. What you're buying here is a digital media device, so you can blog and vlog and create podcasts, all of those kind of things. Okay, so maximizing dream outcome is that how can you get to the deeper desire that your patients are having when they're wanting to come and see you. So the next thing that we also want to maximize is we want to maximize the perceived likelihood of success. When we're told that we're likely or increased likelihood of success, that's much more valuable for us. Now, there's many ways that we can do this. A couple of the really simple ways that you might be able to do is testimonials or case studies. Now, we can't do those here in Australia, but one of the ways that you can maximize the perceived likelihood of stress is just confidence and certainty in your products and services. How confident are you in your communication when you accept a case? Now, I understand that we're dealing with health and we can never be 100% confident, but how confident are you that you can help the person? Now, that confidence bleeds over into the communication, into the value. When I am confident that you can get me the result there as well, that's a lot more valuable to me. So there are two things that we want to increase. We want to increase and maximize the dream outcome. We want to maximize perceived likelihood of success. Now, there's two things that we want to minimize if we want to increase value. We want to minimize the time to success. How fast can you get the result for the patient? Now, are you adjusting them enough? Now, this is one way that actually helps people get more results. Now, it might cost them a little bit more, but if they can get results even faster, then the increased number of adjustments is actually more valuable for the patients as well. Are there other supplemental things that you can be doing to help them get better results? Are there lifestyle advice that you can give them? Are there supplements? Are there other practitioners that you can have as part of this as well? Now, even if you don't do any of those kind of things and you're saying, listen, I'm doing everything I possibly can to get my patient the result as quickly as possible, then the very important thing that you should be doing is, are you showing progress? Now, the fact of the matter is, think about it for a moment. When my son got braces on his teeth, cost us a lot of money, but we were able to visually see the process happening almost on a weekly basis there. We could take a photo and see his teeth changing. Now, when you're helping somebody with their spine and nerve system working better, now, yes, there are some things inside of them that might feel different, but sometimes they're quite subtle and a little bit intangible. So what can you be doing to show them the progress at least? Are you doing re-exams? Are you checking their posture pre and post? Are there things that you're doing on each and every visit that you're showing them progress? So my gorgeous wife, Lauren, she does range of motion tests, a cervical range of motion test, a tag test, as the amazing Martin Harvey refers to it. She does that on each and every visit. She's showing something tangible progress each and every time. Now that there is all about minimizing the time it takes to get somebody to the result, or at least showing them the progress. And finally, the last thing that you want to do if you want to increase the perceived value of your care is that you want to minimize the effort and sacrifice. I've got my notes here in front of me, gang, and they're quite muddled up here as well, but you're getting the gist of it too. How can you minimize the effort and sacrifice? What can you do to make it easier, seamless, convenient? Can you be open more hours? Can you decrease the wait time? Can you make your environment much nicer? What things can you do to minimize the effort and sacrifice that a person has to have to get the result? So one of the things that we used to do there too is that we would allow people to buy blocks of adjustments. It means they didn't have to stop at the front desk each and every time and pay. It was much faster for them to come in and out. It was much more convenient and seamless as well. So let me summarize those again quickly. And then what I want to do is I want to share a few other ways that you can increase the perceived value. So value, Alex says, is about increasing or maximizing the dream outcome. We talked about making sure that some problems solving are more valuable than others, maximizing the perceived likelihood of success. You want to minimize the time to success, or at least be showing them the progress along the journey. And then you want to be minimizing effort and sacrifice. Now, there are also other ways that you can increase the value of your care as well. Think about it for a moment. How much would you pay for an adjustment from The Rock if he was a chiropractor? Okay. Celebrity is one way that you can increase perceived value. Now, celebrity is one of those things, small levels of celebrity that you can create on social media. Video is a great way for you to create celebrity. When we see people on video, even if it's just video on social media, there is a level of celebrity that comes along with that. Expert and authority, positioning yourself as either of those, is a great way for you to increase perceived value. We pay more, we value authorities and experts more. Now, how do we go about positioning ourselves as an authority, as an expert? Well, we position ourselves as a problem solver. We solve problems. The other way that we increase expert or authority positioning there too is that we narrow our focus. Nobody is an expert and an authority on everything. Okay, so if you are the everything chiropractor, you're much less likely to be perceived as an expert or an authority. Experience. Now, we would pay more to have work done by somebody that's got 20 years of experience than somebody that's got 2 years of experience. So if you have a lot of experience, then be telling people about it. Part of the way that I would introduce myself in my videos is I'd say, hey there, this is Angus from Life Chiropractic in Port Melbourne. Over the last 20 years, we've helped more than 8,000 patients kiss goodbye to their back and neck pain. And in fact, we've helped a lot more than that. I just never updated that number, but 20 years and 8,000 is enough for me to show that I'm experienced. Now, here's the last way that you can increase value that I want to kind of finish this episode off with. One of the ways that you can increase the value of the care that you provide is actually by increasing your prices. That's right. So I've spoken to you previously about a study that was done on wine, where they had some people sit down and they were tasting wine and feeding back which wines they liked the best. Now, the wines were placed out in front of them. There was 4 different wines of each different prices increasing in price. All the taste testers tasted them, and not surprisingly, the wine that they liked the most was the wine that was priced the highest. Now, what they didn't know is that all the wines in front of them were all exactly the same wine, but the increased price of the wine actually increased the value or the perceived experience. Now, here's the interesting thing, because this test has been done in similar ways with different brain scanning equipment on. That's actually shown the brain actually lit up more in the more expensive wine. When they perceived an increased price, they perceived an increased value, they actually enjoyed it more. They didn't enjoy it in the same way they enjoyed the cheap wine. So when you increase the prices of your care there too, then what you're doing is you're also increasing the value. Now, when you increase your price there as well, there are lots of other things that come along with it as well. When you increase the price, there's an increased emotional investment. Okay, when we're paying $1,000 for something, we might be a lot more motivated than when we're just paying $10 for something. Now, this is also good because increased emotional investment actually leads to better results as well. Now, I always think this as a chiropractor, we need to have our patients emotionally invested. Okay, they need to be turning up for their adjustments. They need to be following my recommendations, the lifestyle recommendations that I'm giving them as well. And if they're emotionally invested and they're doing all of those kind of things, they're likely to get better results. So when I increase my fees, I'm also, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm literally also helping them get better results. Now, I'm sure you've noticed this as well, is that when you increase your fees, we also tend to often attract a lot less needy people. I know that when at different times throughout the year, we would have a discount offer into our practice, we would get a lot of tire kickers coming in, okay? People coming in who are price shopping, who wanted a deal. When we increase our prices, we get people that are a lot less needy, they're easier to look after. And finally, when you increase your price, there's more profit in your practice. Now, that more profit into your practice allows you to invest back into adding more value into your practice. Now, along with, we talked about before Apple and Tiffany's both having, products that weren't necessarily better than their competitors, but they charged more from them. They had an environment also that reflects the product. You go into Tiffany's, it's beautiful, okay? If you want to be charging twice as much as the other chiropractors in your area, how can you make your practice look like Tiffany's or like an Apple store? So there you have it, my friends. There's a big gap between price and value. The goal of your care, as I talked about before, really is how do you provide more value, okay? How do you offer enormous amounts of value at a discount price? That doesn't mean you have to be cheap. I'm expecting or suggesting that you should be the most expensive chiropractor in your area. What your community is actually asking of you right now is for you to be more valuable. When you provide more value, everyone wins. Go get it, team. Thanks for all that you do. Keep saving lives. Your community needs you. See you back here real soon. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.